You're watching the Forefront Church video podcast. And wherever you're at viewing online, we just want to say thank you and welcome. And one of the ways that we can help connect with you is we want to hear from you and where you're at and how we can help. And so head over to forefrontchurch.info after the message and click the Connect tab. It's a great way for us to help you along your spiritual journey as you connect with God and learn about Jesus. And so sit back, relax. We hope that you're challenged and encouraged from today's message. Facebook Live, thanks for tuning in. We're so thankful for all of you guys. Make sure that if you're in town, you join us on a Sunday morning, 8:30, 10, or 11:30. 10 a.m., how are we doing today? You guys are hyped. I like it. It's a full house today. Look at you guys. I like it. Man, I'm excited for today as we continue our series, Intentional Encounters. Now, I need to preface this before we give you a little bit of a recap over the last couple weeks. For those of you guys who are new, tuning in online or here this morning, that you're not sure about God. You're a little bit just like, man, I'm not quite sure about this whole Jesus thing. Maybe faith, but I'm not there yet. This whole series is about what does it mean to build up a connection to the divine. And so if you're a little skeptical, go back and listen to the previous weeks. They build on one another as we've continued on in this. And so the first week, we wanted to take a big kind of step back, a 30,000-foot view, and kind of see, all right, what does it mean to engage God? What does it mean to really be intentional? And one of the things that we used in week one was this little 3D art pin thing where if you want to put your hand on it, you can do that. Or if you want to put your face on it, you can do that. And that always looks super weird. It looks like my lips are so, like I have duck lips, like those selfies like that all the girls do. I don't know why you guys do that. It's weird. But one of the things that we realized even in week one is that no shape will ever happen on this thing unless you what? Touch it. We could all sit here this morning, you guys online, we could sit here and all think really hard, like, something might happen for those of us who are a little older, so watch out. And you sit here and think of nothing's going to happen with this. If we just set it on a table and happen, the only way that it will ever move is if we touch it, is if we engage with it. And so he said, all right, when it comes to faith, there's going to be days where we don't want to. There's days where you wake up on a Sunday morning and you're like, I'm really glad they make it a little darker in the room because then the pastor's not even going to know if I'm there or not. I'm just not feeling it today. I went out late. I did whatever. And I totally understand it. But just because you don't feel it all the time, you don't feel like reading your Bible or praying or, you're just like, man, this whole Jesus thing is hard. Just because you don't feel like it doesn't mean that the truth is any less true. And so he says, what does it mean to be intentional? We landed at this in week one. Even when you don't feel like it, and we know this when it comes to our job, relationships, parenting, friendships, all these things, even when you don't feel like it, intentionality fosters moments to see his movement, God's movement, and to be refreshed. Because we learned in week one that in national population is overwhelmingly, due to studies on Pew Research and Gallup poll studies, that we are busy. This is what you say when you run around and you see people around town. Oh, it's so good to catch up, whatever. Hey, I know that you're really busy. And then we're tired. And so if we're going to be intentional, we have to look at our schedules, look at the way that we're living, and say, you know what? I have to make sure that I am carving away time intentionally to be refreshed, specifically with God. And so that landed us in week two, where we came away with this. Focus comes when we intentionally release the commotion. You know that device that sits in your pocket that beckons your attention every little bit of time? I even challenge you guys to look, for those of you guys who have iOS devices, go look at your screen time amounts. And I had people texting and calling me back going like, I did not like any bit of that. Don't ever ask me to do that again. And I go, well, what are you doing to be intentional? If you roll over and the first thing you touch is your cell phone, and before you go to bed, the last thing you touch is your cell phone, especially if you're married, you're doing it wrong. Like, what are we going to do to say, you know what? I'm going to be intentional with my time with God. And what does that mean? And so he said, focus comes when we intentionally release those things and withdraw to solitude. But we didn't stop and put a period there, because it's great to be able to go on vacation and get refreshed and spend time with friends, with family, sometimes with family, like that we would go away and get this solitude because, I needed that. Those are great. But we need specific time to get intentional in solitude with God, which is why we said specific time of solitude for encountering Him. And one of the ways that we illustrated this was at each service, brought them on stage and gave them an envelope of $24. It was 24 $1 bills. And we looked at it and said, hey, listen, at the end of every day, you've been given 24 hours. How are you focusing on using those moments? Because you can't go, I only spent like 10 of them. I can go use the rest tomorrow. No. Your time that you get is the time that you get in each day. And we say, I wish I just had more time. Well, there's people that focus their time well and use it. And so the note inside of that, as they walked off the stage, was, hey, you can use this money, which is awesome because we asked the question, who likes to spend money? And almost everybody, it's suspect. If you don't like to spend money, let's talk. And we just, hey, if somebody can give me money, sure, I'll spend it. Everybody raised their hand and brought up, here's the money, but you can't spend it on yourself. You can't spend it on your family, the note said inside. And you have till Friday, and you need to email back to me with your story and a photo. And so in 8:30 service, I got this message from a lady named Leanne. She said, after receiving the money and reading the instructions, and it's interesting to note that every person found it more difficult than they thought. And so if you're like, it'd be easy to spend money, well, 3 out of 3 people would disagree with you. After receiving the money and getting the instructions, I've been nonstop thinking about who I was going to give this to. How was I going to do it? When? Needless to say, I was really overthinking it the first couple of days and decided right time, right place, right person to give it to. While out with dinner with some friends, we had a waitress named Abby. She was so super sweet and kind and doing very good at her job. She always had a smile on her face, seemed to be happy. The truth is, I had no idea if she was happy or not. Maybe she could be having the worst day of her life, but I don't think you'd ever really be able to know it. It got me thinking. I've never experienced what it means to be a waitress, but I know a ton of people have said they always complain about how little money they make and the fact that a lot of people don't even tip. I knew she was the one, and I was going to give her the money too. On the envelope, I wrote, love God, love people. I try to live this out every day, so much so I even have it tattooed on my arm as a reminder when I need it most, which, in parentheses, is often. As I was walking out, I handed her the slip and told her, I've been asked to bless someone with this envelope of money, and I wanted you to have it. Her mouth dropped open. She said, oh my gosh, are you sure? I said, yes. She looked at me and said, can I give you a hug? I said, of course you can. She looked at me and asked again, why? Like, is this some kind of pyramid scheme or some multi-level marketing, whatever? And no, I was given this from my church, told that I need to bless somebody with this money and I want to give it to you. She thanked me again and I turned to leave. I hit the door and tears were flowing. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to bless this young lady. I need to remember to do this more often. God knows I've been given so much. And so that was 8:30 service. And then at 10 o'clock, we had Sarah joined us on stage, and we did the same thing. We went through the exercise envelope, got the note, and this is what Sarah sent to me. So like a preface, same thing that Leanne wrote. With this challenge was more difficult than I thought it would be. When I originally read your note, I thought, too easy. I can pay for someone's lunch or gas next time I go out to eat and fill up my tank. But then I thought I needed to be better than that. And I love that each person, as they talk about this, they go, I really had to take some time to focus and think and go, what would I do for someone else? And so paying for all those things, sure, it's nice, but I wouldn't complain if someone did it for me, but I wanted to do more. As of this morning, I had nothing yet. And I felt I was waiting on something. Even like the band played that song, I'm waiting. I think sometimes we wait on like those, God, if you could write that in the sky, if you could just send somebody to my door and said, actually, here's what you need to do. And I think we do that a lot. I know that I do as well. And it had nothing. So I was honestly thinking my best option, give it back to you, essentially donate it to the church is my good deed, but, all caps. Then a friend messaged me and asked me if I would like to sponsor a caddy or two for homeless children in our area. I absolutely said yes. So with my $24, I sponsored 2 Halloween caddies for homeless children in our area. Forefront is such an amazing church, and I'm so happy that everyone has welcomed us. I don't think I've met anyone who was not friendly, nice, or helpful. I guess you never talked to Tommy. Just kidding. Kidding. I'm kidding. He's awful. Just kidding. He's fun. It's okay. God brought my family to the greatest church family, and she kind of shared some more stuff, and I was like, man, this is so cool. And then we got to 11:30 service, and Greg, our sound guy, was back there that week. We have different guys that switch out, and he was running sound last week. He had already seen this twice, and so he knew what was going to go on, and he didn't even realize that he had raised his hand. And then I called on him, and he didn't know. It was like a knee-jerk reaction. Who likes to spend money? And it was like, didn't even think about it. And so I called on him. He's like shaking his head no. I was like, come to the stage. And so he came up to the stage, and I love Greg's story. And I teared up last service, and I'm not going to do it this one. Said, so I'm not really sure what compelled me to raise my hand this morning. Like, really. It was like someone pulled my arm in the air. I was actually a little embarrassed that you called on me, and I stood on the stage, and all I could think about was, why the heck did I raise my hand? I'm sure you could tell as you answered most of the questions for me, LOL. So while you were preaching, I decided to pull out the note inside the envelope. After reading it, I immediately thought of someone I am close to. You see, they've had a rough home life. They're still dealing with the loss of a family member. They take care of another family member, and this person has been struggling financially. When I ended up handing this person the envelope, they asked me what this was for. Said, gonna end up crying again. Said, it's for you. I said, I know money's tight, and I want you to have this. I know it's not much, but I hope it helps. They looked at me and said, you have no idea. I have a job interview this week, and I was worried how I was going to get there because I don't have enough money to put gas in my car. He gave me one of the tightest, most genuine hugs I've ever had. Thank you for the opportunity to give to others and focus to love well. And this was their text message exchange a little bit later. I don't know about you, but there's something really great about what it means to be intentional. You see, for every one of these individuals, they had no idea when they woke up last Sunday that they were going to come and be a part of something bigger than themselves. I think they may have hoped. I think that's why we all come and gather and tune in, because we hope that God is going to stir up something more than what we are in ourselves. In our next series that we're going to start in a couple of weeks, you guys are all going to be given envelopes that have different things that you and I will be doing in our community to love other people well. You see, what's interesting about every one of those is they thought it was harder than they originally planned on. And when they did it, they wanted it to mean something. They focused. They prayed. They asked God, what am I going to do with this? How am I going to help somebody in this? And I love that we get to do a series that says, you know what? We don't just want to come and gather and learn and all pat ourselves on the back, and that was a great service. Like, we want to actually be people who go and love other people well, which is why today's message is so important. You see, we have in our family, my wife and our 3 girls, and I love being able to pass on things to them. Things that I love, a love for the arts and being creative. I love passing on the hobby that I had and enjoyed it. Ended up getting pretty decent at it in skateboarding. And, some of the girls have picked it up and they cruise around with it great. But our middle child, Roxy, has had a difficult time with it. You see, I have this really big longboard that we made, went out and bought the trucks and wheels, and then went to Home Depot, and I was like, man, I can cut out a board. I don't need to spend money at the skate shop, and even did some little fins on the bottom of it. There used to be 3. That's an accident. We won't talk about it. Made this right when my wife and I got married, and had it now for 15 years. And this thing has seen a lot of wear and tear and fun. And so for some of our girls, they'll get out there and like our oldest, she's great. She has good balance. She'll get on there and cruise around and it's fine. And even if you don't have a ton of balance, it's not that hard. But our middle child, Roxy, she just sometimes gets in her own head about stuff. And so one day it was just her and I brought the board out into the middle of the street. And I was like, cool, because we like to hang around in our street and ride bikes and whatever. And I got the board out and I was like, hey, we're going to learn how to ride it. And she stood right beside it. And she's like, nope. And I'm like, no, like you can do this. And she got her little scooter. It was like a 3-wheeled scooter. And she got on that. She said, I am going to scoot. And so she does her little thing and rides away. She comes back and I took the scooter. I said, she stopped, talked to me, said, hey, can I see the scooter? Took the scooter, threw it in the grass. I said, we're gonna skateboard today. She said, arms up. And you're just like, it's now like almost like a hunger strike. She's like, I'm not doing anything you say. No, we're gonna learn how to skateboard. And then I didn't want to push her. I was like, you know what? That's fine. If you don't want to learn it. And as I'm saying it, like crying, like she was pretty upset. And I don't ever want to make my kids cry. Like that's not the point. I don't want to be like, you're gonna skateboard or die trying. And like but she tears up. And she's like, I can never do it. I'll never be able to do it. I won't be. And she is just going on and on. And I hadn't like pushed her to a degree where I thought that was even a possible reaction. I was like, whoa. And it's time, especially you guys who have younger kids, like sometimes you say something and it'll stir up a reaction that you weren't anticipating. And so I wasn't anticipating this reaction. I said, wait, listen, baby, I believe in you. And she immediately, I don't care what you believe about me. I could fall, I could break my head, I could get stitches and then the doctor and shots and whatever. And I'm like, whoa. Like we're nowhere. How you've thought this out? Like you have had a whole entire hurtful like Grey's Anatomy episode happen for you, thinking this through. And I'm like, listen. And so I didn't push the envelope anymore, but I knew exactly what had happened. And it happens with you and I in this quest to be intentional because we're fearful about what will happen if I start following God. What happens if I fail? What happens if I don't feel like I'm good enough? What'll happen if I start going for ways and then people begin to criticize the way that I'm moving in God? And the same thing happened with her in that moment that happens with us in faith is when you believe in the lies long enough, you will eventually give up. She was convinced that whatever was going to happen on that board was going to end in difficulty and hurt and failure. Instead of believing in what could be if she was diligent in what she was doing, if she put forth the effort, if she took the time to try, she was having none of it. And I believe as I've been at this for a long time, that for many of us in the back recesses of our mind when it comes to faith, we go, man, what if I fail at this? I don't feel good enough. I've really tried and I've tried to engage at church and churches and in faith, but I don't feel like I measure up. I believe that when we're intentional, beautiful things take place. And if you have a Bible, we're going to open up into the book of Hebrews chapter 6. It's in the New Testament of the Bible. If you don't have one, you guys online, you can go over to forefrontchurch.info and follow along today. Or for you guys who are here, head to our lobby. Pick up a Bible today for free. There is absolutely no catch. We want to be able to make sure that you have an easy-to-read translation of the Bible. You see, we know as we move forward, if you've never been a part of church, what those of us who have been a part of it for a little while know and have begun to understand is that God is in the business of making the impossible possible. That when you intentionally engage him, that things that you never thought could ever happen will begin to happen when you trust him and put your life in his hands. That doesn't mean he undoes your personality in the beauty that makes you, you. Because sometimes we measure ourselves up to all of the other people, and I want you to know, I don't want you to be anybody else but you. And so does God. God doesn't want you to be the person you're measuring up to down the block, or that mom that has everything together, that does the birthday party, that has all the Pinterest wins and no Pinterest fails. And she does all this stuff, and the party's amazing, and you're just like, oh, that's exhausting. Here, kid, and she makes the big meals, and you're just like, kids, here's mac and cheese and leftover pizza. Go and do what you can. I don't want you to ever feel like you have to measure up to someone else, because God never wanted you to be them. He wants you to be you. And when you and I begin to focus on that in our faith, beautiful things happen. Hebrews chapter 6, it opens up in verse 10. It says, God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him as you have helped his people and continue to help them. Saying, listen, keep caring for people. These messages, and I have tons of messages like this from people who go, hey, I just want to share with you what I've been doing and how I've been caring for people. I love hearing those stories. Hey, I heard the message, and here's what I did this week to live that out with other people. I go, man, that's amazing. And this is what the writer's sharing this, but continues on. It says, we want each of you to show this same, and say this word out loud. What is that? Diligence to the very end, so that what you hope for may be fully realized. Writer continues on. It says, we do not want you to become, and let's say that one real loud, lazy. Some of y'all are like, I'm sitting next to lazy right now. Do not elbow them. Some of y'all are like, we talked about it already on the car ride. They know. But to imitate those who walk through, and this is huge, be diligent, don't be lazy, and imitate those through faith and patience inherit what has been promised, looking to the people who have done it before us and worked hard. Thomas Jefferson puts it very plainly and simply. Everything yields to diligence. You do not always have to be the best father, mother, son, daughter, friend. But if you work hard, if you put the effort in day after day after day, you will rise to the top, because many people just want to phone it in. Many people just kind of want to, that's good enough. That's a phrase that every believer should strike from their vocabulary. God doesn't call us to good enough. God calls us to greatness in him and trusting him. Everything yields to being diligent. And as we're going to be intentional with God and encounter him and focus and have that solitude with him, one of the things that we have to fight for is diligence. And if you don't get anything else, my prayer is that you get this, our main idea for today. Diligence is the currency spent to build a healthy faith. Now, love, care for others, is the currency by which we share our faith, but diligence is how you build it. And I watch people who work hard, who put in the work. That is not to say that we earn God's love. Don't send me that email. Oh, today I heard you tell me that we earn God's love by being diligent. I never said that. What I am saying is that God loves you unconditionally, and if you want to foster a healthy relationship with him, put in the work. Put in the work. Because God can't foster a relationship with you if you're just like, I think I'm just going to sit around and do nothing. I'm not going to read my Bible. I'm not going to pray. I'm not going to engage a faith community in church. I'm not going to be generous with my time, with my resources. I'm not going to be about others instead of myself. That will not foster a relationship with God. You see, but I watch people that get fulfilled when they do. The writer in Proverbs puts it, a sluggard's appetite never filled. Someone who's lazy, who's trying to mooch off other people, who just goes, man, I want God to do for me. I am not going to do for others. Never filled. But you show me somebody who the desires of the diligent, someone who works hard for God, someone who cares, God, your mission is important. I'm going to fight for it. Fully satisfied. They're not a complainer. They don't come to church and go, can't believe they sang that song. Because it's not about them. They don't go, man, well, if I was doing things, we would be, and I go, No, because we care about other people. When you're so focused about other people, you don't have time to be a critic. You are constantly about caring for and helping others because you're being diligent, which is why other people, watch the people that are bringing others to faith. They're diligent about their own faith and caring for others, which is why the writer Paul in the New Testament said, follow my example as I follow the example of Christ. I follow the example of Jesus. How many of us could say, hey, if you look at my life, you're seeing Jesus, so just follow what I do? How many of us could write that statement and text that to a friend? Hey, if you want to really know what Jesus is about, just do exactly what I do. For many of us, I would have a hard time being like, hey, do exactly what I do, except for, and I'd have a bullet list of stuff. Except for a couple weeks ago, I said when my foot gets a little heavy and I go too fast. When sometimes I'm parenting and I go a little too heavy-handed when it comes to correcting my kids. When I go through an emotional state and all I want to do is eat my feelings. You know what? Don't follow those things, but then follow that. We probably all have that list of caveats. Could it be said of us? And so how can we combat that? Well, one of the things that diligence does is diligence tells laziness to pack its bags. Diligence says, you know what? I am going to fight for what is true. A lot of people, and this is just accurate of what studies have shown over the last 3 years, the words work and diligence don't get a really good reputation. It's even now, like people in the music industry used to hustle. I mean, hustle. They would record and go play show after show after show up at record labels, recording demos, send it out to everybody. Now, the current thing is, I'm just going to make a YouTube channel because Bieber did it and he got signed. I'm just going to put stuff on YouTube and sit at my house and wait for the call. No. Yeah, maybe 1 in a million that works for, but most people have to do the work. I wrote in my notes, work is doing it. Discipline is doing it every day. Diligence is doing it every day well. That we're going to fight for it. That we're not going to become tired. Love the way the writer in Galatians puts it. That guy Paul we were talking about, he writes this. He says, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not what? Give up. Now, believers in the room, believers watching online, I want to tell you, don't look at somebody at any local church in the rest of your life and go, you know what? I am burnout because the church, and then fill in the blank. Because that's not true. Anytime you may be burnt out, it's because you didn't take care of yourself. And you might be like, no, actually, no. When you become grown, when you begin to follow Jesus, when you follow his example, there's not a single time that Jesus told his disciples during the time of their ministry, you know what, you guys, just take a year off because I know you're really tired. And just like, don't tell anybody about Jesus, just kind of do your thing because you've worked so hard. He goes, no, get out there and do work. And then when he leaves this earth, he says, hey, listen, here's your mission. Go and tell everybody that doesn't know me about me and my Father and make sure that they know that all this in love, and keep doing that. How long should we do it? Till you're worm food. Till you're under the dirt. Keep going. Keep going. We're not going to become weary because the world, everybody around us needs us. And I love the way the writer puts it in Corinthians. It says, therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, stand firm. Let nothing move you. Always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord because you know that your labor is not done in vain. So I just asked the question, have you become weary? And are you ready for a change if you have been? If you follow Jesus and you're like, man, I'm really tired. What are you tired from? Now, I'm not talking about if you were wounded by a church or a Christian in a previous experience. We're glad that people are able to come and heal. But we're not going to wear our previous hurts as a badge of honor and a little bit as an excuse to not get in the game. We tell people when they come and they have a previous church experience, previous church background, we go, man, that's awesome. How can we help you heal? And they go, here, here's cool. Where are you going to jump in? Well, I'm still a little, whatever. You're still a little what? Like God is in the business of making all things new. Jesus came to renew you. Well, I was hurt by so-and-so. Cool, so-and-so ain't here. get to moving. Like, we're not going to take up space because there are 130,000 people in Virginia Beach who claim no faith at all. What are we been called to do by Jesus? To go out and love people well and bring them hope. And we will do that unapologetically and not just sit and gather together and go, rah, 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 Jesus. We will go, yeah, get encouraged, get pumped up, and go out and care for people. But I want you to know this. If you're still on the fence about this Jesus guy, diligence isn't the absence of questions. Here at Forefront, we are fine with questions. We're fine with skepticism. We're fine with doubt. We tackle all sorts of topics that go over this, and we're not going to go, oh my goodness, you don't believe in God yet? You need to sit over there until you figure it out. Nope. Come on in. We love that the entire spectrum of pursuing what it means to follow God is always represented, no matter where we gather, no matter online, Instagram, Facebook, you name it, it is represented in Forefront Church. And we are okay with that. But this diligence isn't about saying, oh, I can't have questions, but the pursuit of the one who holds the answers. Each day I'm going to wake up and I'm going to press on to the goal. That's why the writer Paul wrote, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. That you and I, we are going to be about helping other people. We're not going to be about our preferences and, if this, like, I really need to find a church that makes me feel good. Like, guaranteed, if you come for any length of time, I'm going to say something from this stage and go, I don't really like the way he said that. Okay? I'm not here to make you feel good. I'm here to encourage you in what Jesus wants for you. I'm here to help you think for yourself about the beauty of Jesus and how you and I can go out and not believe the lies about what people have told us about our identity and to follow him with every part of our being. Which is why I ask the question, do you believe the prize is worth it? So for about a year, Roxy said, no, hard pass on the skateboard. And so the other kids would get on it and play, but it wasn't until a couple months ago, we were out front and playing, and our oldest, I think she was riding her bike or something, and then our youngest at the time was about, I don't know, I think she was 4 at the time, this was a few months ago, and so she got out on the board, and she was like, Daddy, I want to ride it, and I'm like, I don't know if that's a good idea, but she got down on her knees and like kind of pushed, and then she stood herself up, and she was like, and started rolling. It was real slow, kind of like how it is here, but she was rolling. And Roxy was on the porch like this, like, better than all you people. Like, kind of, and I get it. She was not having it, but the moment she saw her younger sister get on it, she stood up. Rocky theme was playing. She was in it to win it. You know, I was like, what is happening right now? I expected Stallone to run out and be, you can do it. Like she came out and I was like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm getting on the board. I'm like, oh, because you saw your little sister on it? And she goes, and kind of gave me that look. And I knew that's why. And she got on it and then immediately started to push. And I was like, cool, like you did. She rode for a little while. We were getting ready to go into dinner. And I was like, hey, Rox, it's dinner. She's like, nah. Like she wanted to keep going. And then the next day she's like, you're going to bring the skateboard to the bus stop? I'm like, why? I ride it sometimes at the bus stop. She said, I want to ride it home. I'm like, okay. And now she cruises amazing. And I love that she's able to do it because she saw for a while and believed in the lies. I can't do it. I'll get hurt. I'll never be good enough. She looked at her older sister who had been cruising around for a while now. Well, she's good at it. I'm not. And Roxy is really athletically inclined. But there was something that was convincing her that she wasn't good enough. And then everything shifted. She said, I will work hard at it. And she has. She gets on the board. She works really hard. And she has been crushing it. Absolutely doing amazing. And I wonder about us. You see, diligence is the currency spent to build a healthy faith. And I think for some of us, we are terrified to hop on this because somebody else does it better. What could I offer? There's already people in the band, and I just tool around with a guitar at my house. You know, there's people back there doing tech stuff. And I hear about people that work through, nonprofits that we partner with, like Penn Ministry and Aid Now and the Crisis Pregnancy Center. You know what? There's already people doing that, so they don't need somebody like me. And there's already a bunch of smiling faces. I can't say hi to anybody. I'm way weird, and I just can't do that. And so they're going to have to find somebody else. And I wonder if you're believing the lies so much that God has a specific place for you to jump in and serve other people in our community, around our city, right here in this church, that there's people that could use your voice if you were to be intentional with God so that you could turn that over to help other people. You see, I can't make you choose that. All I'm here to do at the end of it, I had somebody ask me the other week, they're like, all you ever do at the end of the service is just make me feel like I have more questions. I said, good. Because I'm not here to give you a bunch of pat answers. I'm here to inspire you so that you can go and live the life that Jesus called you to live. But will you jump on past all of the fears and be diligent in how he designed you? Because I can promise you this, that when you do, you will not be disappointed. But that choice is yours. We'd love to talk to you about that after service. Thanks for tuning in to the Forefront Church video podcast. Our hope and prayer is that this has left you encouraged and challenged you in your faith. And you might have some questions and some ways that you want to figure this out, and we want to help with that. Head over to forefrontchurch.info, and there's a couple different ways that you can connect. Click the Connect tab and let us know how we can be praying for you, or a staff member can be contacting you this week. Maybe you have just been encouraged by this and want to support the ministry here at Forefront Church. You can click the Giving tab, as well as other tabs that are in there to help you along in your journey with God. And so we're thankful for you. Thanks for tuning in, and we cannot wait to see you again here online on the video podcast. We love you, and we'll see you then.